The Rugby Championship is around the corner. 4 teams, Springboks, New Zealand, Australia and Argentina are all battling it out for the trophy. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down each team, how I think they're going to do, and then right at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my prediction for what I think the table is going to look like at the end of the competition. If you're new around here, my name is Jordan Burrs. This channel is all about South African rugby, so hit that subscribe button because we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Leave your comments down below. Give me your predictions, who you think's the underdog, who you think's going to win it, and if anyone can beat the Springboks. That's the real question in this video. Can anyone challenge the Springboks to win the Rugby Championship? I'm going to be diving into all of it, so let's get into it. So if we do an overview of the fixtures really quickly, just to get an idea of who's playing at home and who's playing away. Well, the Springboks start with 2 test matches against Australia at home, then go away to New Zealand for 2 test matches, then play Argentina in Durban and then in London. Now, Australia have actually picked up a nice draw because they actually play Argentina at home, and I think that's probably the battle for the wooden spoon, who's going to end third and who's going to end fourth. The Springboks have maybe picked up more of a difficult battle going away to New Zealand and trying to beat them away from home at Eden Park, where they're 50 games unbeaten, and then in Wellington, where yes, New Zealand don't have the best record, but it's always so difficult to beat New Zealand away from home. Now, let's start off with New Zealand, the All Blacks, because they will be looking to get that trophy back from the Springboks, and this is probably the best year for them to do it because their fixtures line up super well and they're in some good form, and the players that are playing for them are in some really good form. So if we recap their 2024 year, they started strong under Scott Robertson. This is now his second year in charge for the All Blacks. They beat England twice, they smashed Fiji, they did have a shock loss to Argentina at home during the Rugby Championship last year. 2 narrow defeats to the Springboks in South Africa, one at Ellis Park and one at Cape Town, and then they won the Bledisloe Cup, but they did end the year with a little bit of inconsistencies. Now, for 2025, they've come up against France in their first 3 games. Now, it was a very much weakened French side. They blooded new talent, and the All Blacks at times made it look quite difficult, but they did end up beating them 3-0, and they'll take a lot of positives out of that because I think they answered a lot of questions on combinations and who's the best 23 to take on the Springboks when they come play in New Zealand. Now, Ardie Savea is in absolutely phenomenal form for the All Blacks. He's going to should hit 100 caps this tournament. Then you got new faces like Simon Parker. Wallace Setiti is back from injury. Kyle Pretson, who is a scrum off, and then Ruben Love, who's a utility back who plays scrum off, or excuse me, plays fly off for the Hurricanes. Then we've got Beauden Barrett, who's chasing Habana's try record. So this All Blacks team, although they haven't been the All Blacks of old, I do feel like they're starting to come into their own and they're starting to get back into that 2011, 2015 type of style All Blacks. I think the All Blacks could definitely win the Rugby Championship. I think all it's probably going to take is 1 win against the Springboks. And to be honest, they're probably favorites to win both games. They have a favorable schedule, like I said, hosting the Boks at Eden Park, and then after that, a trip to Argentina. While they're still gelling under Scott Robertson and they have a good schedule, it is going to be very difficult for them because I still do think the Springboks are probably the only team that can beat them at home this year, and I think it is probably going to happen. Now, if we move on to Australia. Now, Australia is a very interesting one because I think when we go into Rugby Championship, we don't always consider Australia too much just because of their form over the last couple of years, but they're coming off a very good series against the British and Irish Lions. Arguably, they probably should have beaten the British and Irish Lions 2-1 in that series. However, we don't really know how good the British and Irish Lions are compared to all these other teams in the Rugby Championship because they were somewhat of an unknown commodity coming into that series. You never know what's going to happen when you put 4 nations together and make them into the British and Irish Lions. Yes, Australia struggled in that first test match, but then they came back, should have won the second test match, and then won the third test match. So while they finished rock bottom in the Rugby Championship last year with only 1 win from 6, with heavy defeats to Boks and Pumas, their only win was a tight one over Argentina. I feel like they're coming into this in much better form than they were last year. They've obviously also got big players returning. Will Skelton, Rob Valentini, who made huge impacts when they came on against the British and Irish Lions. They've also got key backs and youngsters coming through, one of those being Tate McDermott, who is just such an impactful number 9, really reminds me of sort of a Grant Williams-esque scrum off. So while they do have a brutal start to the campaign with 2 matches against the Springboks, they do have 2 crucial middle games against Argentina. And like I said in the intro, I think that is going to be who decides who ends in 3rd and who ends in 4th. Now moving on to Argentina, because Argentina are sort of the wild card in this Rugby Championship. We know that on any day, Argentina can beat anyone in the world. They proved that last year by beating the All Blacks away from home, by beating the Springboks, by beating France, by beating the British and Irish Lions earlier this year. Argentina on their day can shock absolutely any team. I don't care how good you are. If Argentina pitches up and you just slightly don't pitch up, they will beat you. Yes, they came up against England in a 2-game series this year and ended up losing 2-0, but they were missing key players. Now they do have quite a few players coming back to provide more strength into that side. You think about Kremer, you think about Carreras, you think about Matera. These are world-class players and can turn it on like that. So yes, the first 2 games versus the All Blacks at home is definitely a chance for Argentina to upset the All Blacks early. And to be honest, I think they probably could, especially because they're playing at home. They play away to the Wallabies, so they're probably not going to win there. And then they play one against the Boks in Durban and one at Twickenham. Now, I don't think they're going to win either one against the Boks. Their 2 best opportunities are against the Wallabies, but we saw that Argentina can beat the All Blacks away from home, and this time they're playing them at home. So, like it or not, Argentina could finish 2nd in this competition if they end up knocking over the All Blacks once, if they beat the Wallabies twice, and then maybe even give the Boks a little bit of a scare in those last 2 games. So we've spoken about New Zealand, we've spoken about Australia and Argentina. Now, on to the final one, and that is the Springboks, where a lot of people think that the Springboks are going to go to New Zealand and beat them back-to-back, beat the Aussies twice and beat Argentina twice, winning the Rugby Championship 6 wins to none. Now, we are defending champions coming into the Rugby Championship. We extended a winning streak over the All Blacks to 4, and a lot of people think we can extend it to 6 when we go to Eden Park and Wellington. Now, if we speak about the Springboks form at the moment, I think these first 4 games, it's difficult to judge where the Springboks are at, right? Because Rassie Erasmus used those first 4 games to experiment with combinations, try different things out, try different strategies. But if we look at it as an overview, the average score for those 4 games were 49 points to 10. That is a massive tick for the Springboks. I think we tested 48 or 49 different players, or 47 ended up playing for the Springboks over those 4 test matches. So Rassie Erasmus has definitely had a massive look at the pool of talent we have, the big options and squad depth, and where I think we're going to either win or lose this Rugby Championship is, first of all, who we pick at 10. Is it Mani Lebok? Is it Pollard? Or is it Sasha Feinberg, Mngumezulu? Who are we picking at 15? Is it Fassi? Is it Damian Willemse? Or is it Willie Leroux? In the forwards, I think the loose trio is probably going to make a big impact, especially in that 8 role where we don't have Jasper Visser at the moment. We've got Sia Khaleesi playing 8 for the Springboks against Australia this weekend, but we are lacking a little bit of depth there. Also, who are our best lock combinations? Is it Eben Etzebeth and Lut Diacha, or should Ruan Nokia there? Where does RG Snyman fit in? So there are a lot of questions, and I think if Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks want to go and win the Rugby Championships and not lose a game, those key positions, 10, 15, 8, and 5, those question marks need to be answered, and he needs to pick the right player at the right time against the right team. Now, that I've given you an overview of everything, how do I see the Rugby Championship ending? And I would love to hear what you guys have to say, so put it down in the comments. For me, I think in 4th, I'm going to have to go for Argentina. It's going to be a little bit controversial, but I do think New Zealand are firing at the moment, and I do think New Zealand get over Argentina in the first 2 games. I think the Wallabies beat Argentina once and lose all 4 games to New Zealand and South Africa, which means that most likely the Wallabies and Argentina are going to be tied for the same amount of points. It's going to come down to points difference, and I just think the Wallabies are peaking at the right time. They've come off a very difficult series against the British and Irish Lions, and I think the Wallabies have more of a chance to keep it tight than Argentina do. So I'm going to go for Argentina in 4th. I'm going to go for Australia in 3rd, and then 2nd and 1st. The only real question we need to answer here is, do we think the Springboks can beat the All Blacks in one of the test matches away from home and let it come down to bonus points and points difference? I'm going to say yes. I actually think we're going to go beat them at Eden Park and break that streak, and I think we're going to beat them in Wellington as well. I think the Springboks are just at a different level at the moment, operating. Their aura is a little bit different. It's kind of the 2011 to 2015 All Blacks type of aura that no one can really beat us, and we find a way to win. Our record against New Zealand is also very solid over the last 4 years. And I think New Zealand are really, really stressed about the Springboks coming to New Zealand and beating them twice. So for me, I'm going to put New Zealand in second, and I think the Springboks are going to win the Rugby Championship yet again. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.